But there are a few other things in this update as well, weren't there? So there was a few, not exactly, well, one new model, but some new profiles for existing options, shall we say, that make them a bit easier to use. So a few factions benefited from these. So Enforcers, you used to play Enforcers a lot, didn't you, Ian?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, so it was your go-to in the day.
The original starter box and the new one, so I imagine there's plenty of people with Enforcer factions out there. And this is enabling you to use some of the upgrades that Mantic have available just a little bit more effectively by giving them their own profiles.
Yeah, so we've got, I think it's 3 new profiles, really, isn't it, for the Enforceable. And we should say, actually, if you've got Deadzone Escalation digital version, then your digital rulebook will be updated with all of these. Otherwise, this is obviously downloadable, and there'll be a link down below from the Mantic website anyway, as its own PDF. But the fact that they've put them into your digital escalation book is great. I mean, you don't still only need one book then. So yeah, so we've got 3 new things or potential things, I guess. You've always been able to build all of these. It's just that there wasn't a profile for them. So first one up is the Pathfinder Infiltrator, who's basically a Pathfinder specialist, but with one difference.
He's got a wheel.
Yeah, so he or she comes with a free wheel. But why would you want a free wheel? Surely you could just have a monocycle in the parts. You could just buy a monocycle item, couldn't you?
Well, and free is pretty much the word. I mean, is that a
one point?
You're paying 1 point.
It's crazy.
From sprint of 2 to sprint of 5.
Yeah, so instead of 1-2, it's now 1-5, isn't it? So.
And with Scout, the ability to scout. So before anything happens, you can move 5 cubes and still shoot round 1 without needing a shoot die. That's awesome.
Do you know what I'm thinking? You need to get them double map missions out. Yeah, so the balance here, of course, is that you've got a monowheel and all the monowheel does, but you haven't had to take it as an item, and I think it was a rare item, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So that frees up options for other rare items.
Or even
you can still take monowheels, for other models, but of course the advantage is it gives you 1-5. So you might not use the sprint very often. You probably only use it once in the game, but if it, like you say, it gives you into that perfect position for you to take that shot that you want. And you've got a tag rifle on this guy, of course. So that's not, if going with the tag sergeant, the Pathfinder sergeant, you can tag from anywhere. So you may well be getting a very nice, tasty shot off first round. But there are some downsides to it as well. I mean, you're getting a mono that normally costs you 5 points, but it's only costing you 1. Surely there must be a downside to that.
There is, because Pathfinders love height. They love height. They love to shoot you in the top of the skull. Really weak.
Well, they want the instant kill. They don't want to hit you in a limb or something, do you? Because they know it's painful.
Now you're a vehicle, so there will be, unless there are those rarest of items, ramps around, then you will be on the floor shooting with 3 dice, and you will be a bit sad.
Yeah, and unlike the monowheel item, you can't drop it, because you can't drop equipment that comes on your stock profile. Other people can't pick it up, and you can't.
And it's
choose
just only a
it.
special rule here. It's only the vehicle. So you can't take an item. You can't take a holocide or AP ammo or something like that, but you can take light sniper weapons as weapon options. So only costing 1 point more, it could be a good idea to get the sniper rifle there, get the scout move into a good position. I think it's not as easy to hide as like a normal Pathfinder, which runs around around walls, but with a sniper rifle, it could be a good option, because usually I think you don't want to take a sniper rifle that often with Pathfinders when you already have a tech rifle. But getting that clear shot round 1 with a sniper rifle because of that scout mono wheel move can be really, really nice.
Yeah, I mean it's expensive to do that, and of course he's going to be
Yeah.
dead. But if he gets someone important with that shot, that could be a real alpha strike, couldn't it? Yeah.
And you still can, if you buy a rival or not, but you still can get that alpha strike shot, and then next round move away to some needed victory point. But and also you usually don't have that much board control, and I think we're talking about board control with the next new entries. But getting that 5 sprint speed to get to the objective you need to go,
totally.
It gives you options.
And
it survives.
Yeah, and I was joking a bit about the double map missions, but actually you don't see them played too much because it's a little bit more effort to make them, of course, with the terrain. But on missions that have more than one map, speed like this is incredible because it gets you to objectives that other people aren't even going to get to for a round. It's going to take them so much longer to even move there unless they've got something equally fast. Or
you can move 10 with the move dice 11 cubes in round 1 or till the end of round 1. I think. All right,
you're going crazy now, Claudio.
But you can do it. It's no problem. If you have like in a double mat game, you have in the middle or on the other side of the map a 4-point objective, no problem. Let's go. 11 cubes. I don't care.
Next summer's new game is Deadzone
the only
Racer.
thing you range for your entire opponent's force.
Yeah.
Well, it's a specialist by 3. Who cares?
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, Deadzone Racers, next year's new game. So yeah, I think he or she's clearly not a perfect model. Again, it does one thing better, but it's an interesting thing, and the model of the monocycle is a nice model. It's a very nice model. Actually, it's one of the original models from right back in the version 1 Kickstarter, wasn't it? Yeah, version 1.
I've got one from the version 1 Kickstarter. Yeah.
And it's going to be nice to see them on the table a little bit more. I mean, I don't think you're going to see people running loads of them because it's just you don't need that 1/5, do you? That much, but 1 or 2 models, as you say. I think it could be very interesting indeed to see it played out. So there's a couple of other sort of interesting options as well in the enforcers. So there's the B&E, the breach and eradicate enforcer. Not breach and entry like the police would do. No. These are enforcers. We don't just break the door in and go in. We go in and we eradicate everything. So these guys, I mean, they're basically assault enforcers, aren't they?
Yeah.
So they're 5/5/4, frenzy 1, pistol. So that's assault enforcer. But unlike a wrist blade, which you would normally get stuck with, gives you AP1, these guys have got thermal mines. It's got a thermal detonator of AP3.
Beep.
So AP3. So for an extra 2 points of AP, basically, what are you paying for? You're paying
3 points.
3 points more and a victory point, I think, isn't it?
Yep, and specialist.
Yeah, and specialist. So they are a bit more pricey in a few different ways, but are they good? Yeah,
they are, because the first time I saw them, I thought, okay, thermal mine is nice. It's cheaper than the usual way with an item, and you can still take an item with them.
Mm-hmm.
We're coming back to this later. But it's not a one-use thermal mine. It's a breach and eradicate enforcer. He has loads of them, like everywhere. So each round you can use them as often as you attack or until you die, probably. But AP3.
Yeah, AP3 on a model that's got frenzy. I mean, that's the value there, isn't it? Claudio's just frozen for a second.
A little bit.
Yeah. In a really embarrassing way as well. Look at that. Like...
Yeah, what a stupid expression for Paul.
AP3 on a model with Frenzy 1. Yeah, I think, it's it's better, isn't it? Because he gives you the options of taking more things out, like the forge guard or a strider or something like that. It gives you an option of doing some actual damage on something you wouldn't normally have a chance of damaging, actually, because the armor would just keep back.
Yeah. I mean, I think you'd need help. You'd probably need a friend in there already. You're going to need to be rolling 5 or 6 dice, really, to stand a decent chance of getting enough 5s. It's you know, it's the mediocre fight value that's always makes it a bit of a struggle for assault enforcers, and the same for these guys. Just actually winning the fight first before you consider how much AP you do.
Yeah. So I think he adds another option, doesn't he? But I think he's something who you'd probably run with normal assault enforcers or something like that if you wanted to do him as a sort of a
you might run with a pair. That might be a good idea.
Yeah. So you'd have the 2 options,
or even with our next entry.
Oh, now this one I like a lot.
Ooh, synergy.
So this is an enforcer defender. So this isn't an assault enforcer. This is a normal enforcer stat profile. So shoots on a 4, fights on a 5, survives on a 4. No frenzy this time because he's a normal one. He gets a combat shotgun. Wait for it. Range 3 knockback. Absolutely. So it used to be range 2. He gets the standard jump pack and he gets a defender shield. So basically for 18 points and 2 victory points, you're getting, which is 3 more victory points, 3 more points, isn't it, than a normal one? Is it 2 more points than a normal one? And the same victory points. Oh, he's back. Hello.
I'm back.
We're onto the defender. We're just talking about defender. So for 2 extra points and no extra victory points, what are you getting? You're getting a
weapon upgrade, which would normally be a point,
yeah,
and a defender shield, which would normally be 5 points.
Well, the weapon upgrade is almost a downgrade, really, though, isn't it? Because the weapon is less good than his stock weapon. So you're swapping a range 6 rapid fire weapon for a range 3 knockback weapon. But now it's range 3. It's not as it's perfectly fine. But you get the defender shield. That's the beauty, which takes him and everyone else in the cube with him to armor, an extra armor. So for him, it's going to be 2. But stick your Pathfinder in there, and suddenly he's got a chance of surviving or something. So what do you reckon to him?
I think he's awesome because the now range 3 shotgun fits his style, his why you buy him. You buy him for being a defender, and knocking down someone, it's just really valuable for that board control you need. You can go up there in the midst, and you can still buy another item.
Not another defender shield, though. You can't have 2 defender shields.
No, not another defender shield. But if you're going crazy, maybe a frag grenade or a med kit. So you have your options there, and I think I really like him because I like defender shields, and it's the cheapest option to get a defender shield in the whole army.
Yeah, so that's exactly why he was put in as an option, because the defender shields are so iconic of the enforcers, but you rarely see them taken because they ended up being too expensive, and they were rare items, and you wanted to use your rare items for maybe a hollow sight or an energy shield or something else that wasn't easy to get in your list. So we've got these great items that people aren't taking. So we've got basically a stock model, and you get 5 of these on every sprue. They're great. So they should see more use. And I think this guy really will. I mean, he certainly gives a lot more option, a bit more survivability, which they're not bad at, the enforcers anyway. And range 3 on a weapon or a man who shoots on 4s, it's all right, because you're going to move him forwards, aren't you? He won't shoot round 1, but he'll shoot on round 2 and 3 and 4.
The other thing worth noting is his weapon options. Light assault gives you some pretty tasty variations. I mean, even a small arm, you could give him that rifle back if you want that range. But light assault gun, you could have a fusion gun. That's range 4, frag 3. So ignore the shoot value, none of this rolling to hit business, just straight for the damage. We like that.
Well, that's thematically huge as well, isn't it? It's like, again, clearing these close combat urban areas. I've got my shield, I've got my fusion gun, Get out of the way.
Yeah, everyone else, leave that cube. Yeah, everyone, step aside.
Yeah, I just go in and plant my shield now like a Roman legionary, and it's like, yep, I'm not moving.
Yeah, everyone here. He could have a flamethrower, just because. Set everything on fire. I mean, now range 2 again, but still, everything's on fire, and that's always great news.
I modeled one with a flamethrower and shield because it's
Why
good.
wouldn't you?
The only downside was you usually let go of your shield when you die because it's an item which you can drop. And if you're too close and burn something and that's some melee creature or trooper and that kills you and gets the shield, that's unfortunate. He won't drop his shield like the Nameless Ogre. So that's also a good thing because with that less range with his shotgun and his options, which are all range 2 to 4, it's better than the item. So I really like that he's like a specialist in itself. You don't lose that slot for a specialist weapon.
Yeah, I think he's super good. And Ian already mentioned that running him alongside the B&E Enforcer, they would synergize with each other really, really well. Or any Assault Enforcer, but particularly the AP from the...
Howlet.
If you run Howlet, I mean, Jesus.
Well, and there's one more weapon as well, the Thermal Rifle, range 4 AP2. Then you are really are going to take advantage of his shoot stat as well. Whereas
that's not even that many points. How many points is that? Yeah,
7.
Yeah, so I mean, it's you're not breaking the bank to do that.
So if something does get blasted through his shield, then it'll cost you a bit more. But
it's only 2 points more than you usually pay for your specialist, and if you're going for a close ranged or small ranged specialist, the armor helps to get there. So I think it's worth every time if you're going to get one of these 3 weapons. Those 2 points should be paid for a defender.
Yeah, well, I want to run 2 of them now. I want at least 2.
Yeah, why not? And you can still buy your Peacekeeper Captain or whoever you want the shield.
Yeah.
And give him Bastion the defender, so you can run really, really high armor enforcers now. Yeah, just knocking them away the whole time and burning them and.
Oh, that's good actually. Because I mean, enforcers, original factions, and you don't see them used that often. Actually, I don't think. Certainly in tournament, I've been in several tournaments where there's not been any enforcers, and it's a shame because they've got such great stuff. But I think the build options were just a bit too limiting in the past. So hopefully there was too much good stuff, but you had to pay through the nose for it. Whereas here, I think there's enough, as you point out, with those different weapon options, particularly on the defender area, and I think there's enough there to go, oh yeah, maybe I'll give that a little go today.
I seem to remember getting knocked off the top table of 2 tournaments last year by enforcers. So they're still out there and they're sneaky.
Probably says more about you than anyone else. Doesn't it?
I think the problem is with enforcers that many missions you have to go there, you have to advance. And enforcers usually don't want to do that. So you're forfeiting a bit of the board, you're losing victory points.
Not the defender. He loves it.
Yeah,
he loves
those
advancing.
3 new options really, really help. Either in a different way, but I think it's a worthy addition and you should really try them out.
Yeah. So that's enough of enforcers now. So there's some relatively quick entries. So the monowheels aren't unique to the Pathfinder specialist. So both the GCPS and the Maison Labs get a monowheel. Basically, it's the same. They get their basic Marine type. So for the GCPS, it's a normal Marine who basically gets a monowheel. So he goes from 8 points to 9 points. So it's the same sort of thing. Not really any different than we've already talked about. And then in the Maison Labs, he's slightly better because their basic Marine is this Urbana Blackwing Marine.
They're not basic.
No,
They're
they're the veterans, really. They're the same stats and weapons as the veterans from a GCPS list. So he goes from 11 points to 12 points. And again, he gains the vehicle ability and the 1 to 5. But he's got a rapid fire, weight of fire, one weapon. So he's actually a nicer option, but he's obviously limited to the Maison.
And a better fight.
Yes, and a better fight, actually, as well, yeah. So, which is quite handy, actually, when you're zipping around the battlefield. So yeah, they're nice options, still very cheap, gives a lot more speed. There's not much speed in either of the GCPS or the Maison Labs, actually, because they all their guys are 1-2, really. Yeah, they are, aren't they? So yeah, so some different options there, but basically they're the same as on the Pathfinder one.
I think both. Yep. Sorry, Ian.
Well, the other thing, the Maison Labs one is a troop.
Yes.
The GCPS one is a specialist. The Maison Lab one is a troop.
Yeah, and I think both are really good, because the Mason Labs, you want to shoot, but you don't have Scout. So you can't use that value of 5 that often. But you have a trooper there, so he can zip around with your plague victims. But why I think that the specialist marine motorcycle from the GCPS may be better is because he's worse. You don't have such a great gun on him, so you have only 9 points and can zip around to every objective, and it's 25% less than you pay for the Mason Lab one. Yeah,
and the other thing with the GCPS one is that you're never short of specialist options, because not options as in you're never short of unlocks, is what I mean to say. Most factions want to get their specialists and struggle to get the right number of specialists because of the troops that they've got. They want more specialists and less troops, you see what I mean? Whereas GCPS is actually the other way around, typically, is that you want a couple of weapon teams, but actually most of the others they're useful. You want a couple of rangers, but you're usually running 6 or more troops, I would say, of some description, maybe even up to 10 or so troops. So having the GCPS Marine as a specialist is not a hindrance in that list, whereas it would be perhaps in, say, the Maison Labs, where you actually want to run a bunch of other things as a specialist. Does that make sense? I've done very well.
Yeah, it makes sense.
I mean, do we think it's a valid tactic for the Maison Labs one just to speed 5 it straight into the enemy line so they get killed and you turn them into plague victims?
Yeah. Why not?
Oh, plague victims in my lines at the end of turn 1. Brilliant.
And
well, I think it's distraction, isn't it?
I think
so. But you get them up there, keep them busy, but not a very expensive model, whilst I'm advancing my tasty plague victims and stuff like that, you know.
And it works with graves too. You can move 5 cubes then rapid fire with weight of fire 1.
Yeah.
And suppress something. So
you mean Guard Commander Graves, or as I like to call him, the best Maison Labs leader? Anyone in their right mind calls him the best Maison Labs leader.
Yep.
Yeah. He's so much better than Dr. Octopus for everything. Lucas Coigne. See, people look at the tactician and they go, "Oh, I want the tactician dice." And like, yeah, normally I'd be with you on that, but not with his splat. Oh no. Right, there's another monocycle though, isn't there? So the Rebs get a monocycle. Now this one's slightly different because it's not just it is basically just a vehicle upgrade like the others, but because the stat profile's quite a lot better, this one acts
sphere on it.
A lot different. Yeah, so it's a Sphere Hunter who is a new model in Escalation. So he's got a good shoot weapon and a good fight. Well, I say good. He's sort of average at both, but his weapon options are good. So he's got an AP1 range 5 harpoon gun and combat blades, which give him frenzy 1, and he fights on a 5, shoots on a 5. So that's not bad. And he is 14 points, 1 victory point, and he gets the monocycle. So he's fast now. So all those things we've been talking about are even better with him, actually, aren't they, in some ways?
Yeah, and again, it's a trooper. So you only pay 1 point more than the regular Sphere Hunter, but having a range 5 gun, which is limiting already, we spoke about that with the Assyrians, and having a good Frenzy 1 melee weapon makes it much better to just, the first turn you usually just have to move. So you can move those 5 cubes or up to 5 cubes where you want to go, be there for the next round with your AP1 weapon, with your frenzy weapon, and be prepared for everything, and still unlock the alpha simians and teratons and other fancy things you want to field with your reps. And it's the first really fast option for the troops for the reps, because usually the Indish are the fastest and they aren't as good and as fast. They can scout, but that's it. So I think it can really help build pressure if you're playing with a faster moving reps list.
Yeah, and he's such a fantastic model as well. This one's really
Lovely.
Beautiful, this model. I mean, we're talking about how amazing this is to sort of hit the back line, but actually it isn't always as perfect as that, because you're only moving 5 on a sprint. So you're going to need a command dice as well, really, to do the things we're talking about. So there's an extra cost there for what may well be a one-shot trick as well. So, it's always a balance, of course, trying to make sure that you get what you want, or the chance of getting what you want, but the cost is there in the model you sacrifice potentially, and the fact that you're going to have to do something, a shoot dice, for instance, or something like that, you're going to need as well, typically. So, except for the Pathfinder, of course, because he may well get there with the scouts, but all the others are going to need that.
The other thing is this guy's got some better weapon options as well, with the light assault and automatic, which combined with his speed works quite well, because they're short-range weapons. You're basically looking at flamethrower range 2, wrist blaster or standard blaster range 3 and 4. If you've got a big clump of guys in one cube, to be able to whiz up their speed 5 and then use a command dice to pop a blast, splat them all against a wall, or set them all on fire, that'd be beautiful.
Yeah, that'd be a lovely moment, wouldn't it? A lovely moment.
Oh no, you're all on fire! Oh no!
The Rebs are going, finally, we're doing what everybody else does to us. With their mortars and stuff. So yeah, I think he's nice, and again, it adds something new to the Rebs, and such a beautiful model as well. Wasn't really being seen on the table, so I think hopefully we'll see a few of these run now, which is because Sphere are just generally just the best. They're just such beautiful models. They really are.
And I think these additions make the item mono wheel still valid, because if you're taking Mason Labs, you can still take your Ranger Specialist, which has Scout. You buy him a bike, he can scout 5 cubes, and he can disembark or get off the bike, move and shoot someone in the head from above. So bikes are still good items, but now you have your stock troopers with bikes who you usually don't want to have on bikes, and have different roles. So I think the bike is much more versatile now with those.
Yeah, well, and it's one of those things you have to play with it to realize what it can do and what it can't do. And so I think you're more likely to play with it now because it's there in front of you as an option in your list. There's one new addition to the Vermin as well. One final new addition. So the Vermin Thrall. So he's a Vanguard model actually. So he's a Vermin slave from Vanguard, but he's a Vermin Thrall now. Ratkin slave, sorry, from Vanguard. But he's a Vermin Thrall now. These are metal models, actually. They're really nice, actually. I don't know if you've got them.
They're lovely.
Yeah, they're really good models. You get 4 to a pack. I think the pack's about 12, 13 pounds or something like that. You get 4, something like that anyway. Perfectly reasonable price for nice models. So these guys are a bit like cheap stalkers, aren't they? Not as good in some ways, but they're the same sort of thing. So they're speed 2-3, no shoot stats, fight on a 6, survive on a 5, 0 armor, size 1, teeth and claws, so no difference. But they're 6 points and 1 victory point. So quite less good at fighting, still very fast, quite a bit cheaper because, as we'll talk in a second, the price of Stalkers has gone up to 9 points from 8. So they're now 3 points cheaper, but still a victory point. What do you reckon? You're not going to take them, are you?
Do you know what? I looked at the one victory point and went, do you know what? I'd like to have seen them as a 0 VP model.
I think you're probably right.
The plague zombie for the Ratkin list, because they're shit at fighting. Let's not mince our words. So be reckless with their lives. Toss them aside without care. But if they're costing you victory points, then that's much harder to do. I mean, I realise they're much more survivable than a zombie. They've got better survive. They're not vulnerable. So they're as survivable as stalkers and crawlers.
Yeah, they're more survivable than a rap trooper or a Mason Lab scientist.
So I can see why they're not 0 VP, because they take some killing. You've got to put some effort in, whereas zombies just sort of fall over dead because. But it does prevent you from being reckless with.
Yeah, you're right. You can't be quite as
something to do with it.
Yeah. No, I think it would have been nice if they were a 0 VP. Actually, I think that could have really been an option for them. They're not, but
you're both vermin players, so
yeah, exactly.
Who's surprised?
maybe that's why they're not 0 VP.
So as a neutral view, I would say it's okay. They aren't as good because it's a strange role, because usually your army is fast enough to get the victory points, etc. But if you want to swarm someone and to attack one, you buy your stalkers, and if you just have to have like those 1-2 backline supporting victory points, extra body, these are good enough, but don't go for like 10 of them. And
I think there's something to add a few of, because they're cheaper if you freeze up a few points, and you're not normally short of points in a Veermin list. But the build I was thinking that might work nicely with them is, like you say, are you going all aggro fighting, in which case you're going to run mostly stalkers. If you want a lot of specialists, particularly shooty specialists, then saving those few points actually might be worth it, because all you're going to use your thralls for is grabbing objectives. So if you want to go heavy Malignite or something like that, or heavy, Nightmares are troops now actually. So
Tunnel Runner.
Pardon?
Heavy tunnel runner.
Yeah, if you want to go heavy tunnel runner or something, then saving a few points here and there actually is worth it. But it'd be interesting to see whether I think you're right. I don't think you're going to see people run 10 of these. I think you're going to see them run 2 to 4 to free up enough points for, because that 2 to 4, I mean, that's another Malignus, isn't it?
12.
Yeah. It's one more Malignus.
Yeah, I agree. From a list building perspective, it's a useful tool.
But they aren't fancy. They aren't fancy. It's not like a new entry. Whoa, that's mind blowing. They can help out.
Yeah. These aren't gonna. These basically give you more options in the troops for the Veermin, because they actually only had 3 troops, don't they?
Yeah.
They used to only have 2 until escalation, actually, when Nightmares dropped down into a troop option.
But
so by now having 4, that's right, isn't it? I think that's right.
They have the charge, the Bolt Chasers one too.
Oh, no,
So
they're
now
all specialists. They're all specialists. Yeah.
Not
the base ones.
runner equivalent.
I'm forgetting those.
But they are even more expensive.
They're more expensive.
So
But it doesn't matter, because you wouldn't take any of them. You just take lots of swarms.
Yeah. Let's be honest. Just more rats.
So what Andy's talking is bollocks, because the Veermin have got far more troop choices than they can.
Oh yeah, swarms of troops now. I'm forgetting. There's been so many iterations. I'm forgetting. Yeah, but why would you take swarms? I mean, 4's plenty, right? I'm always running 4.
4 does seem to be the optimum number from what I've experienced. Yeah.
But while they're fighting those swarm tar pits, you're grabbing stuff with your thralls.
Yeah. You don't have to spend points on anything.
So yeah, I think the Veermin thralls they add something, but they're not as automatically good looking as some of the other ones are that we've talked about.
I think I'd use them the same way as I use the zombies in my plague list. That they will be the second wave that creep about and hide and jump on an objective when it's not really being competed over.
And it's speed 2-3. They can jump on an objective. They can really do that. And even fight 6 isn't great, but if you've got a pinned model with maybe a heavy weapon or something who isn't the best fighter, then grab it. They'll get an easy kill here and there in a game, won't they? As well,
Yeah. So they could do first wave as well. If it was something like Divide and Conquer, where you've got your high point objectives on each side, normally I'd line up stalkers and crawlers to swarm those objectives on turn 1, get the big points.
Get the points, but likelihood is that they'll get killed at some point as well. Whereas these ones, I don't care if they get killed so much. I mean,
and 5-up survive is still good enough against like every normal GCPS, Marine, Rebel Trooper, etc. Because you're in a straight rollout.
But what I mean about not be worrying about them being killed is that if you're in Divide and Conquer or Occupy, the fact you're there is what's important. But with a Stalker, I actually sort of want that model to be there and doing something else. But actually with a Thrall, I don't really care. You can just sit there, can't he? If he sits there and scores 6 points in a game, well, I am more than happy, Good. So that's all of the new models, really. Either new models or new profiles. But there's a little sneakiness sneaked in at the back there at the end of this PDF. A few little Easter eggs, which I think boost. Well, they're not all boosts, but they boost every faction, with the exception of the Nameless, in quite subtle but nice ways, I think. So we've talked about some of them already. So the shotgun we've talked about. So we talked about the shotgun in the Defender model for Enforcers, but there's shotguns in several lists. So all of the shotguns are now range 3. So shotguns for GCPS, Maison Labs, that's it, isn't it? And Enforcers. Yeah. So that's 4 factions basically get a better shotgun option now. And shotguns, 2 points, isn't it, normally? Now range 3 knockback. Again, are you going to take it in preference to a weapon that kills? Maybe. Now at least it has an option. At range 3, it's suddenly a lot tastier than it.
You don't need to buy a pistol on top of that to get a bit more range. So
yeah,
I think it's awesome. Range 3 is really good because that's all you need.
Yeah, and knockback's a versatile ability actually that can actually do quite a lot of damage if you use it properly. But even if you don't, the pushing people out of objective squares is of huge value.
Or even pushing them away, because with range 2, if you push away some melee models, most of them have sprint 3, so they get you. With range 3, if you push them away, you are safe afterwards if you're going on maximum range. And most of the armies, but most of the armies who use shotguns or can use shotguns have problems with board control or with enemy melee models. So I think it's only a little change, but it helps a lot. I think it helps a lot. Let's see how it plays out. But on the paper, for me, it's a nice addition.
There's a small change to a Marionette Prime, which we won't go into too much, but basically this means that you can use the splat ability for Marionette Prime now doesn't activate the second model that gets to benefit. So that's a pretty big boost actually. I thought it was quite a good ability before, but this will really make it shine. And the Marionette Prime is such a cool model. I think it's nice to again have that. But more importantly, sort of the other models that have benefited is the Forge Guard. So now they move 1-2. No more stunty legs on your heavily armored Forge Guard.
I think it's about time. They suffered long enough.
Yeah.
I don't think you have.
It was starting to look a bit out of place, actually. Because the Forge Lord moves 1-2. The Hammerfist Drop Trooper moves 1-2, even though his armor's not as good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think the Forge Guard moving 1-2 it's probably a bit long overdue, isn't it? But again, the 1-1 did limit people taking it. People looked at it and went, "Oh, not sure I want to take him if he's so slow." But 1-2, he's probably still going to move and shoot every time because he's got good weapons.
Yeah, exactly. How often are we going to see these things sprinting 2 cubes?
No.
The problem
gives him
is
the option now, doesn't it?
yeah. The problem is they are so expensive. You don't have that many models, and you still have to get some victory points from objectives. So sometimes you really have to move, and you just can't, and that's frustrating. And I think many people who play Watch Butlers regularly.
He's now moving 3 cubes. I mean, whoa.
I look forward to the day I see it.
It'll never happen. Never happen. He'll be dead in round 1 anyway. So.
Moving on to something that's much more exciting for me.
Marauders. Who loves Marauders? Literally no one. No, but Marauders. So a really, really, really minor change in Marauders. But is it important, Ian?
It is for me.
It's really important.
It's like running an all-commando force.
Yeah, it's really
important.
And
now, I get one with a jump pack. That's lovely, isn't it?
Yeah. So the Skyscrapers, there used to be, I think there were 18 points and a specialist. So now they're 14 points. So they were way overpriced, really. For what
they were nearly unusable. I think.
I think they were unusable. We never saw them, did you? Yeah. Literally never saw them.
The nice thing is they can have weapon. They have weapon options. Mm-hmm. So
flamer and a heavy machine gun. Isn't it?
Yeah, you can use them as specialists, but for 18 points, it wasn't worth it. Now they're like a bit pricier specialists, but with the jump pack and added mobility, that's nice.
But there's something else in there, isn't there, Ian? What's the other difference?
No, we're lying. Let's not make mistakes live on air. They do not have jump packs. They have aerial deployment.
Aerial deployment.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
That's.
I beg your pardon. Even better. Well, that's why they were 18 points.
Yeah.
No, but there's
land them and set things on fire. Yeah. Sounds excellent.
There's an even better addition, though, not just the points reduction. What's that, Ian? What's the subtle difference?
They've become commandos, which means when you run a force full of commandos for the lovely Commando Sergeant splat, he is applicable.
Yeah. So it was almost a mistake, I think, that they weren't commandos. It didn't make any sense that they weren't commandos.
Because they look like them.
Yeah. And the wording of that splat on the Commando Sergeant specifically says commando. So it couldn't apply to them. And what does that splat do again, Ian?
It allows you to re-roll all the dice of a normal test. So fight, shoot, or survive. So basically roll off against your opponent. And if he's rolled a crap survive, but you've also rolled a crap shoot. So normally it'd be a whole lot of nothing. You go, well, I think I'll spend my splat to re-roll my shoot. Oh, now I've got something decent. You're dead.
And re-roll that on a flamer after aerial deployment, and you have a cube with 3 enemy models, and you re-roll one shooting attack.
Paltry success you got there
against everyone in that cube there.
Yeah. And it's essential. Obviously, it's a bit niche because it's a splat ability, but the fact that they can now have that benefit is, it's not huge, but when it comes off, that one every third game where it comes off or something like that could be really huge. It could be game changing actually. So really small, subtle change. Obviously, the points reduction is fair because they're basically a standard guide for now 2 points extra to have aerial deployment. That's what they are. But that subtle name change makes a big difference, but only for one particular build type. But if you're taking a Commando Sergeant, you want to run loads of commandos, So Marauders, everyone hates Marauders. So did I say that out loud? I don't know if you hashtag friends don't let you play Marauders. It's going to catch on like hashtag Deadzone lives. Plague. So Plague. They're the only faction, really, aren't they? They got a wet fish in the face. What did they? They lost.
They had it coming.
Big time.
They've had it coming for a long time.
Totally.
Hashtag fucking murder birds.
So yeah, Murder Birds got nerfed.
Yay!
And yeah, no one's crying about that. Maybe Blade players. Andy Ransom's crying about that. So Murder Birds had the unfortunate thing of being very fast, very durable, and having scouts. So basically meant you had an Alpha Strike round 1, which usually didn't kill that much, but locked down an incredibly good model.
Deal with.
Yeah.
If you're playing reps, they killed everything turn 1.
Just by like dropping guana on them, probably.
Deadly bird poop.
Yes. Aerial attack. So they've lost scouts. So they're still tough. They're still really good. They're still worth their points. But they're not getting the auto hit on you without a decent recon roll, which isn't the forte of Plague anyway. And or without move dice and stuff like that. So they're not getting the round 1, I'm going to sit in your basically baseline and you've got to deal with me now. They actually have to work a bit harder for it. So I think it's a fair, isn't it?
Yeah.
Absolutely. But talking about guano and ranged attacks from different body parts, I think the next one is also really interesting and
Go on, Claudio.
Controversial change. The bursters now are 12 points. So
that's a massive increase in points.
Massive. But they've got a shoot stat of 5 up now, and they've got a weapon to shoot. So they have their pus burst, range 2, AP 2, and it burns on a 5 up shoot. That's incredible.
Pretty good. Range 2 though.
82 flamer on a 5 up. That's awesome.
The AP 2 is, so most flamer weapons don't have any AP, or maybe AP 1 most, don't they? But they're often short ranged. I think it's only the Asterion ones that are longer range, isn't it?
No, the Asterion one has AP 1 for 5 points, but only on marionettes. And the normal flamers are 4 points for range 2. So these are like the better versions of the Asterion ones, and on a pretty good model too. But
so I think the bursters are, they're pretty durable, but they're a bit of a, obviously they have boom as well, which means that if they do go, you might want them to go, of course, but obviously if they do go at the wrong time, that might actually be detrimental to your force. But yeah, I think they're pretty durable, the bursters. You don't see them run that often, but I think that's more of a, people haven't had access to them so much to buy them, because there were production issues for a long time. So that's probably one of the main reasons we didn't see them so much, rather than the fact that the profile was poor. And also in Plague, there's a lot of competition for specialist slots, isn't there? I mean, there's a lot of good models. Plague Swarm,
Ridley to choose from.
Yeah, absolutely. So bursters were really getting the thing. Yeah, I mean, I've painted up mine, and they're lovely models. They're heavy as hell.
They have AP2 if you throw them at your opponent, for sure.
Well, at 10 points, they were really pretty good, weren't they? Because with that survive 4, a point of armor, and their size, they were durable. As again, it's a good second wave. You know, you send all your stuff and teleport.
You send your dogs and your birds first,
and then you've got these big fat guys that can take a few rounds and keep going. And
they're even a better second wave.
Yeah, I mean, the pus burst really does give them something different, and there isn't a lot of shooting in Plague at all. So to have another option that certainly with it burns, which suits the Plague, you know, they have a lot of it burns. So they have the 3A option, they have the Strider option, and obviously they have these guys now as well. It sort of fits the theme of, like, you know, Plague indiscriminately destroying stuff, really. But yeah, I think you're right. I think he's a really tasty option, isn't he? I mean, I would expect to see these run probably in pairs, actually. I would expect to see 2 of these in quite a lot of Plague builds going forwards.
In the same cube, so when one dies, the other one does too.
Boom, boom.
I really think that the boom is worse now, because beforehand you wanted to get in there, and when you die and you explode. But now you want to shoot more often because his shoot is probably better than his melee attack. But then again, you can't place other models with him, so it limits you a bit more because you play him.
It's almost like someone has thought about all of these possible things, isn't it?
Crazy! It's not only random.
That seems so unlikely.
Yeah, actually, it's genuinely incredibly unlikely.
We all know this is
what a fortuitous thing that you've just spotted there. That clearly must have been.
I think the expression is unencumbered by the thought process.
Okay, for the record, I wouldn't have said that it's clever if I knew what would come out of it now. But okay.
Yeah, so I think bursters are really good, though, aren't they? I mean, they are. They were probably already good, actually, but they just didn't see a lot of play. Now I think they're very, very good.
Yeah, I mean, the risk was that they just spent the game plodding around the board and not doing very much.
Just like
now they've got a bit more option to do something. They've got something else they can do, and they've got more points to pay for it. But I think
we'll see more Plague.
Because they're a weak faction anyway, the Plague.
Yeah, of course.
Right, a couple of other very small differences. So Rebs.
Whoop whoop.
Go Rebs.
Go Rebs.
Really small difference, but do you think it's important?
It's awesome. As a Reb player, that's so good. The Rebel Sorek is down to 6 points now. That's
12 before, wasn't it?
It's 12 way back. But it's incredible now because it's cheaper than a Rebel Trooper. It still only has
surely nothing's cheaper than a Rebel Trooper. I mean, they literally have no value.
They shoot on 5, so they are really, really good. But the Soreks can't kill anything with their blasters. They're range 4 blasters, but blast is awesome for suppressing. And that's a really important point, and I have to say it, because they have a survive of 5. That's incredibly good for a trooper in the Rep faction. Because only the Sphere for 13 points has a 5-up survive. The others have a 6, and now for 6 points, it's the cheapest option with the best survive in the troop category. You can give it a pistol for 3 for range 3 for 1 point, so it's the same points as the Rebel Trooper. Rebel Troopers usually go around and get objectives and hope they don't die somewhere. So Soreks can do that better now.
The Rebel Troopers, how many points? About 8, is he?
7.
7.
So it's same points with the pistol.
Hmm.
I really like the change.
Or give them a rifle.
Give it a rifle. Give it a rifle for 1 point more. It's still
1 point more, but you get an extra survive.
Yeah, then it's the same point as a GCPS trooper.
Yeah.
But I think the blaster is still a good weapon, and I am thrilled because I usually run many Rep troopers because
I wasn't expecting that response.
It should be like voice signs. Thrilled.
Claudio's getting excited.
Yeah, finally reps. Okay, yeah. I think it's a little change, but it's a really good one, making the reps even better.
It just makes another option, doesn't it? You know, again, these are another faction that, like Plague, they want their unlocks. I mean, that's the joke, isn't it? What's a Rev Trooper worth? Well, it's worth an unlock. That's what it's worth.
Whatever specialist you've then unlocked.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So having Soreks that can do that, and like you say, with the blaster option, it's really good, but it was just a bit too expensive for something that doesn't do any damage. Yeah, it can knock people into buildings, can knock people off of buildings and stuff like that, but that's quite tricky to engineer, isn't it? It's not a guarantee. So having him cheaper means you'll see him run more, because you didn't see many people run a Rebel Sorek. I mean, it used to be a bit of a running joke, actually, as you know, I used to defend them on Facebook and stuff. Blast is really good. You're just not considering it. But of course, it's
only a maximum of 1, because it was too expensive to use more than 1.
Yes, yeah.
And with the pistol, I think they were 9 points. So with
Yeah, I
the
think
pistol,
they
they
were
were 10 points, and it was worth, but only 1 for that trick shot. But now, I think.
And at that point, at 6 points, I mean, if he dies, I don't care. Fine,
it's the
6
same points as a thrall.
Yeah.
And it's
But a thrall can
survivable.
punch you. Yes, well.
Not really.
Sorry, punches on a 6-2, so that's an interesting fight.
Yeah. That would be the worst, wouldn't it? Yeah, so a nice little change there, I think, for the Revs. Yeah, subtle in some ways, but basically all of these escalation errata changes are actually subtle. In fact, most of the things, apart from the Matsudan, are subtle. That's just full-on punchy face. And then we've got to everybody's favourite, the Vermin. A couple of small changes in the Vermin. So we've mentioned one of these already because the Thralls obviously fill a new category for the Vermin. Not very well, apparently, according to Ian and Claudio. But the Stalkers have gone up. Stalkers have gone up from 8 points to 9 points, which is a tragedy for me and Ian, I think, because we've been running that spam for years. And we're still gonna
quit. I'm gonna quit the game.
Yeah.
Set
fire to your Stalkers. Yes, they've got at 1 point. I think again, they were very good for 8 points. So I think it's not unreasonable they go up 1 point. I think some people would probably argue they could have gone up a bit more even. But I think 1 point is a nice medium for them. They don't stick around. So they are. It's not going to change how you run your list, but it's
because you're just going to take swarms instead anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. But it just gives you a little bit more of a, thing to consider, doesn't it? And then there's one other very minor change in that as well, which is the heavy chem thrower. So heavy chem thrower has got cheaper and is now no victory points. So this is one that nightmares typically carry, or can only carry, I think. So this is the big double-handed sort of chem thrower. So have you ever run one of these, Ian?
No. I think heavy's the problem with the gun, and that hasn't changed. Yes, it's got cheaper, but basically the only advantage of it over the normal chem thrower is a point of range. Well, it's heavy, so you could move and fire the range 2-1, or not move and fire the range 3-1, which it's still more expensive than the smaller one. So,
and you fight worse, because usually with the Nightmare you don't have a problem to move forward and shoot the lower range.
So it's an improvement in the right direction, but I still don't see it as an actual advantage over the normal chem thrower.
Yeah, I guess not. So is it the AP is the same, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just it's basically, like you're saying, it's another option to take, but it's not necessarily changing anything you do with it. So you don't see many people run Nightmares much anyway, actually. I think for a lot of people, the speed is what they want for Vermin if they're going for a combat army, and the Nightmare being 1-2 detracts from the Stalkers, then, if that's what you're running heavy, the Stalkers and the Swarms. Or even the Terrors, for that matter. And if you're going all shooting, then the Nightmares aren't great at shooting either. I mean, they've got some hit burns weapons, but they sort of fall into a weird place, don't they, Nightmares? Yeah, they stick around a bit more. But
I run one, and I give him a chem thrower and a big drill.
Yeah, so he's got both options.
He can mooch around the place. He can set things on fire when he gets close enough, and then he can drill the crap out of them. But to have one having to stand still because his weapon's heavy with range 3, but for no advantage. It's not more AP. There's nothing.
It can work maybe because it's a second wave unit anyway. So if you're just going in there later and standing where you want to stand and shoot at range 3 with a standing on an objective, you are more durable than the other
Yeah,
rats.
I mean, that's the case for it, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's the only way where you could really use it, and I think you have to build around that a bit more, so it's not that easy to use like the other options. But now you can think about it. I think beforehand, with victory points and more cost, that it was unusable.
Yeah, it's better, but it's still.
Yeah, I think for that,
okay
case point that Claudio's just made, that walking forward, standing an objective, and then that extra point of range is genuinely useful to you while you're stood still. Yeah, it's now cheap enough to be viable to take one of those for that purpose. Yeah. So in that respect.
Because then you get like 2 range more, because in every direction you get 1 range more, because you don't have to walk there. If you think about that.
Oh, he's getting really niche now, isn't he? Have you got a stock of heavy Chemthrowers you're trying to sell?
I just want that people use them, and when I play against vermin, they will lose because they're so bad. No, just joking.
Cool. So that's the last of all the changes. So what's the overall sort of feeling about the? Well, I think we all like the Maxodon and the Spectra, don't we? I think we all like that. What about the extra changes to the new profiles and stuff like that? Is there obviously some are better than others? Generally, good stuff.
The fact that Rebs players are thrilled still disturbs me greatly. That's worrying.
Yeah, it's easier to run more Alpha Simians now, which is... No, I think every subtle change was really, really good, because no real game changer there, but many more options, and that's always nice. Yeah, the bursters and the murder birds. I think Plague has the biggest changes for them besides the Styrians.
Yeah. Because it has biggest changes because it changes the way they play, doesn't it? Whereas the other things, they don't really change the way you build your list or play so much.
It's a tweak to the balance, isn't it?
Yeah. Whereas
I think
you're right.
Enforcers really needed that, because being one of the factions in the starter box and one of the presumably easier to play because you shoot well and you survive well, they are in the end not that easy to master, because
they're not top tier, are they?
Control. Yeah, I think the board control is always. I've said it a few times today, but when I played against them, or even as enforcers, I always struggled, or made my opponent struggle to get in there, because when I play reps against enforcers, they can't do anything. Now with the AP3 and the defenders and the bikes, I think that really, really helps. It's not a no-brainer, but even the other bike options for something like GCPS I think it's awesome. And you see those models more often now, hopefully. That's a big plus.
Well, what about you, Ian? You happy? Stalkers are a point more.
Well, I never ran vast amounts of them. I always liked to pair them up with crawlers. Crawlers, guys, they're the truth. They're the truth with them. And stalkers, it's all a distraction. It's all smoke and mirrors. The crawlers are where the real power is.
Cool. Well, thank you very much, guys.
We did really well whizzing through that in an hour.
Yeah, that's taking way longer. Sorry. When we got talking, poor Claudio needs to go to bed.
It was only the Sorek.
Once you got the Sorek, yeah.
The Sorek took the whole evening.
Yeah. So thank you very much for watching. If you stayed all the way to the end, thank you.
Yeah, congratulations. I was struggling.
So yeah, check out. We might do another one of these every now and again. Who knows? Maybe not. Yeah, let's do some more. They're good. Thanks very much for watching, everyone. Please check out the other Wait Fire stuff, Wait Fire Facebook page. Check out our videos, of which are loads of Deadzone ones for some reason. And please like, comment, and subscribe. And take care, guys. Thank you very much, everyone.
Go Reps. Bye.